Welcome to Wealth Well Done. Together, we'll cover a wide range of important topics surrounding money and the impact it has on our lives. From the sophisticated and highly valuable planning techniques of the ultra-wealthy to the commonly underutilized biblical teachings. Together, we'll work to improve our relationship with money and our effectiveness in stewarding it well. Here's your host, Eric Scovill.
All right, welcome to the 82nd episode of the Wealth Well Done podcast, where we are examining tactical, practical, and biblical ways to effectively steward your wealth well done. Maybe for this episode and the last episode, we should say to effectively steward your health well done. We are living very much in the practical phase of this here with what Dr. Jake Hansen shared with us last week. And so if you did not listen to that, please go listen to that. I think that you gave me something there that I don't know how to quantify the value of what you just shared with us. So please go back and listen to last week's episode. And we're in for, my guess is even more of that here. So yes, Dr. Jake, thank you for being willing to do this again. We are going to try to keep this one a little bit shorter because I forgot how to read a calendar and made him wait 15 minutes. So now we've got to keep this under 25. So we're going to just jump right in. Last week, we were talking about our spinal column and how technology has caused such and our focus on technology, and particularly those handheld devices, the amount of people just sitting at a computer now, the drastic impact that is having on the development of our spinal curve and how important that is. This week, I want to get into some other things around health. I have found we're going to talk about RFK Jr. and what he is standing for and what your opinions on that are. But I wanted to do something briefly before we get to that, because I know that is a loaded topic.
That's right.
I want to talk a little bit about the health impacts of grounding and fasting. I have been sharing my testimonials with that here with more and more people lately, and the testimonials continue to get more dramatic. I used to think grounding was, something that weird hippies did until enough people talked about it, and it was actually Dr. Ryan Hukin who
love Ryan,
who really, brother Ryan. So he pushed, or he recommended that, and so we spent a lot more of this summer barefoot outside. But this here about 6 weeks ago, I was feeling a headache come on and just feeling this pressure build up. And I decided to go out and test this theory that he had told me. And so I went outside and took my shoes off. And within, no joke, less than 2 minutes, I just felt, it was almost instant that I felt pressure start to release. And within 2 minutes, all of it was gone.
Incredible.
And it's just like, wow, what is there to this world? And yesterday had a good friend in who is dealing with cancer and talking about some of the that he's gone through some procedures and he is currently cancer free, but it's really important that the next 2 years he doesn't have any cancer growing back. And I told him, said, listen, I haven't done the studies, but I've heard that if you fast for 72 hours, they've done studies that then show your body starts to eat cancer cells. So absolutely. Dr. Jake, I want to save some time to talk about vaccines and food and other things with RFK Jr., but will you talk to us just a little bit about grounding and fasting?
Oh, absolutely. First off, I always want to look at things from a biblical standpoint first, right? If there's clues that God, has given through the prophets that for our health, right? There's words of wisdom, there's eat this, do this, early to rise, there's so many good things. But so I always look at those things first. So fasting has been a part of my entire life, especially within our faith, we in our church, everyone's encouraged to fast frequently, but at a minimum, we do a fast at least once a month. And it's very interesting. The government was back in like the 70s. They did a study like, wow, why are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, like, why are they like, they're actually physiologically healthier than other people? What is this? Right? They didn't get it. And it came down to one of the biggest things came down to was fasting. Is they said, whoa, so you fast once a month. And everything before there's something physical, there's a spiritual law, right? So fasting is very much a spiritual law, but to see what the benefits that comes from that. And you're absolutely right to see the benefits that come from fasting. So if we look at the word, we always hear the, hey, what's the most important meal of the day? Most important meal of the day, right? Well, if we define, if we break apart the word breakfast, it's breaking your fast, break fast, right? And so I usually don't eat until, and I've had some head traumas. I've had some stuff that's really hit me. And so I usually don't eat until, I usually like an 16 hour thing where I won't eat. So after dinner, I usually don't eat until anywhere between like 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock. It's usually between like 12 and 2 most days that I eat, and where I break my fast, break with a prayer. And I look at that. There's days where if I can go longer, but yeah, a 48 hour, 72 hour fast, physiologically, your body begins to get rid of toxins. The body begins to utilize proper energy. It begins to break down fats for energy. It can also break down if we're talking like, cold plunges, the body in states of stress will start to utilize brown fats as forms of energy. But we start to see the body breaks down and it starts to burn off or utilize the ugly stuff in you for energy. Your body then gets into, so once you've intermittent fasted enough, your body gets into what's called ketosis, where your body starts to break down fats and use it for energy. So, I mean, we need fats. Like your brain, we have to have, a bilipid layer. Like we have to have fats around our brain, fats around our nerves, fats around our heart. We did a study on cholesterol blocking drugs, and they actually showed that people had more brain trauma. They're like, well, the heart can't have fat. Heart can't have fat. Well, they started looking at people who were on these blockers, and like, whoa, Alzheimer's through the roof, dementia through the roof, schizophrenia. I'm like, oh, and it was a 50-year study that they've done on this stuff. And so fats are an important thing, obviously to a degree, but intermittent fasting begins to eat these things up. And then, yes, your body begins to go into, so it begins to target the evil garbage that floats around you and begins to destroy it or utilize it for energy. And it's incredible. So I have several case studies that I've witnessed firsthand from type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, from cancers to you name it. The longest study that I followed was a gentleman didn't eat for a year, didn't eat for 1 year. So he was about 600 pounds, didn't eat he just drank water, just clear fluids, and his body lived off of his own fats. From heart disease, cancers to he's living life, golfing, doing all of his fun, doing everything he wants to do for an entire year. Didn't eat, and this is documented. Not like just his own report, documented. And he's one of I'm sure several other things. But yeah, man, fasting is such a personal. It's such a personal and powerful thing that I love in my life. I definitely implement it in my practice. But for your spirit as well, right? Like whenever I fast, I take the money plus a generous donation of what I would have spent on food. I give it right back to God so that God could utilize that to do a little bit more good. So not only am I abstaining and showing to God that I can do tough stuff. I can avoid eating food and doing these other things, but it's a powerful thing, man. So yeah, fasting's critical. And we didn't even get into grounding.
Yep. So before grounding, let's round this out, because I think there's so much fantastic spiritual benefit to fasting.
Absolutely.
But most of the American Christian church does not fast. And if you were to give us a not hey, here's a good plan for a beginner, but just give us something like this is where we should try to get to. What is a good, healthy rhythm of fasting?
So, I mean, I would say, I mean, you have to look at your own neurology. You have to look at,
Sure.
There are some people with hypoglycemia. I mean, there's certain people where I'd say, man, you can't do a traditional fast where scientifically and spiritually it's been proven to work. But I always say, just start somewhere. Start with an intermittent fast. Start and say, hey, I'm going to eat dinner at 6 o'clock, and then I'm not eating anything else. And so try to go about 16 hours. I mean, if you can start off with 10, 11, 12, but try to get to that point where you can not eat your next meal for about 16 hours. That is a neurologically proven and a physiologically proven method to get the body into ketosis. It's been proven. The Mayo Clinic's proven it. Every Cambridge, I mean, everyone's proven it. So start with a day, right? Or if you can't do that, start with an hour or two later. A true 24-hour fast. Now, long-term fasting, you need to be drinking fluids. it's been proven too to abstain from even liquids. Now, this is usually a very taboo thing, but if you can go 24 hours and not put anything into you and then do a fluid flush after that, that's even more powerful. But my day to day, so when I do a spiritual fast, that's usually what I'll do. I'll abstain for everything for at least 24 hours.
Okay.
But my day to day is I definitely drink fluids. But start with 16. Abstain for 16 hours. And then the first thing you want to put into you has been proven is a good bone broth too. So I usually will I'll break my fast with some fluids and a good bone broth. I mean, I could get into several brands, but what that's been proven to jumpstart the gut, to be able to start detoxing the gut. I mean, there's some pretty cool things that we can see with that, but start there. And it's a very easy thing to do because I mean, as long as there aren't any other catastrophic deleterious things going on with your health, that's a good place to start. And after 3 days to a week or two of doing that, your body will start getting into ketosis where it will shock itself. But then you'll start to see, as for everyone who doesn't want to lose weight today, Eric? Everyone's talking about weight. Everyone wants to lose weight. It's been one of the best things that we've been able to show is intermittent fasting to be able to lose weight and stubborn weight because the body's going to target it. It's going to start using fat for fuel. And it's a powerful thing. And I'll tell you, it's a high when you get into true ketosis to see the neurology turn on. Like I'll look at myself and go, man, like I was on fire today. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do a little blood. You can buy little ketone strips. So blood testers you can get them free anywhere or get them for $1 or $2 and then buy some ketone strips. So just like people have diabetes, you can test yourself. You can test and see, are you in ketosis? And you can buy them anywhere. Every any CVS or Walgreens or Walmart, Amazon, you can get it anywhere. And to see where you're at with that is critical. So it's persistency, right? Being persistent is where you're going to see the benefits. You can definitely see short-term, but long-term. So I start there.
Okay. Very good. And then the idea of you like a 3-day, 3-day water only fast once a month, or what's your
at least? Yeah. So those who can do it on a monthly basis. So the longest study I've read is a 3-year study for people who did a 72-hour fast once a month. It's incredible to see. We will look at blood sugars. So blood pressure is another huge thing too, to watch blood pressure regulate. So people who had high blood pressure where it was like 150 over like 110, they saw it regulate by 30 to 50 points with intermittent fasting. And that was the control that they put was you do everything the same. You take your medication, everything's the same, but intermittent fasting. So at least once a month. Now there are those who can do it more often. I have several colleagues who several days a week, they'll only eat one meal, they'll eat dinner and that's it. And then the last week they'll do a 3-day and to see, we're watching the body reverse itself in aging. The definition, if we look at the word aging, if we look at the actual, like the Webster definition, like one of them it's the inability to adapt. So we can age better when we're removing stressors and toxins and get your body into a fat burning furnace where it can use all that other stuff for good. Because again, we need fats, we need them to live, but to be able to have that appropriate ratio, intermittent fasting, it can absolutely get there. I love we're talking about this. This is so cool. Like I'm totally nerding out here.
Yeah, and we've had a pastor on come in and we've talked about the spiritual side of fasting, but it's great to get into the scientific medical side of this too. So thank you for that. All right.
Yeah.
Because I would skip grounding because of time, but I already presented it. So will you give us like a 60-second piece on grounding? Then let's get into
it's huge. So one of the I could talk about all the benefits from a human side of it, but one of the things that anyone can do, you can do this to your vegetables. So they literally they'll vegetables that are, so they look at differences between like raised gardens, actual gardens themselves. You can look at from indoor, outdoor. There is a difference between vegetables that were in the ground and grown with Mother Earth and being grounded. Because what you can do is any electrician, you can basically look at and say, is this thing grounded or not? And when we do our electricity throughout the home, we test things. Okay, it's grounded. Because if not, we'll get zapped. Well, they can do that on the ground because there is a polarity on God's earth. There's a polarity that's been created. And when that polarity is not being interfered with, things grow. So we've looked at people who we've done a 56-day study on people who've grounded, and we've seen from depression to, from a physiological difference in depression, where you can look at blood chemistry and see the viscosity or the thickness of the blood change. But yeah, grounding, it is the most beautiful thing. It literally connects you to polarity. It literally grounds you. You would never not ground your home. You would never not ground, the things in your business, so it's one of the things.
What does it look like to ground? Do you
So
need to get barefoot? Can you wear socks? Does it need to be grass versus concrete?
Barefoot on grass, on dirt, in sand. Now, they have shown connections on like pavements where you can do that, but the true connection is in dirt, in grass, in sand, on the beach. There's countless studies of people that walk. Now, then part of this has to do with the ocean and whatnot, but people who barefoot walk on the beach, and you're thinking, it's a hippie thing. No, science has proven it. They look at the polarity, they look at the viscosity of your blood, they look at your heart rate. Things change because that negative force. So protons, electrons, that polarity goes from a negative to a positive, and it literally helps reset your cells. The mitochondria changes. But yeah, barefoot, it's basic. Now add to that barefoot while reading the word, man. We could get way into the spiritual side of this.
Yeah. All right.
Barefoot reading the word, barefoot listening to the word. It's a deeper connection, but it's very simple. Go outside, and standing is the best thing. But they've shown you can sit. You can sit in a lawn chair. You can sit on a bench.
How long?
Walking, sitting is more powerful.
It's winter. It's going to be cold. How long do I need to do this for?
Yeah, there's a lot of different studies that show differences. So we've seen differences. The moment you start touching the earth, it starts to change. So we've seen changes in as little as 3 minutes. As little as 3 minutes, you can start seeing changes. The longer, I haven't researched to see, is there a therapeutic benefit? So for example, when I give patients traction, like they lay on the thing, I say you got to do it for at least 20 minutes. Everything, because you'll see a physiological change. Everything after that, you just kind of feel good. But we know that the longer you do it, the better it gets. But we've seen scientific changes after 3 minutes.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Rain or shine, mud or no, winter, snow or not. Yeah. 3 minutes. Pretty cool.
Okay. Get a heat lamp, throw it on the ground outside if you live in the northern Midwest, and
that's right.
Suck it up.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right. RFK Jr. You've probably heard of him.
Yeah, a couple times.
Okay. We have however long until you need to go to talk about what you want to communicate there because obviously everything's skewed by media, and there are sound bites, and we don't know what's real, and depending on where you lean politically or anything else like that. And there's all these other factors. So let's take a non-political, non-biased piece of this and talk about what we should know, what's good about what he's trying to do, where to use caution or anything like that. Vaccines, foods, go.
The best thing that we're seeing is, so for years we always hear, correlation does not mean causation, right? In my practice over the last 11 years, I've done over 23,000, or I've had 23,000 kids come into my practice with autism, on the spectrum of some kind. And we do a study. So the very first question we ask is, are your kids vaccinated? I have yet in my practice to find someone who's on a level of the spectrum who's not vaccinated. So people say, well, causation doesn't mean correlation. Well, what RFK is doing is he's basically
vice
saying,
versa. Correlation doesn't mean causation.
Yep. Exactly right. Yep.
Gotcha.
That's the old TBI Jake Hansen talking there. That's right. Traumatic brain injury. So that's absolutely right. And so what he's doing is he's basically just showing proof. He's like, listen, here's the studies that are there, right? Most Americans don't understand that if I'm not mistaken, in the early 80s, when we started seeing vaccine injured kids, what we started seeing is the government, you cannot go through. So if you're going to go pursue damages, you cannot do it through the traditional judicial system. People don't realize that there is a different system to sue to get. You can't be made whole, but if you're going to demand a settlement of some kind, it cannot be done through the traditional system. There's its own system for vaccine injured kids. And so what he basically does is he's just removed the curtain. He wants to remove the curtain and just say, listen, you decide, you watch this outcome and you tell me what you think. And here's the science behind it, right? So I had 23,000 kids. Right now, so I have 12 kids right now in my practice that were literally between the ages of 3 and 5, they were healthy, they were functional. And immediately after a vaccine, 3 of these kids, all the exact same story, different, from different walks of life. One kid, they're seeing us from out of state, 2 live here in the state. 3 of them, after the vaccine, crawled under their kitchen table and started squawking like birds, tweeting, started making sounds, and then literally they were gone and they never came back. And so what RFK is doing is he's literally saying, listen, just look at these things. Look at the data here. Look at what's happened. Look what's inside. Look what's inside these vaccines. One of the most deadliest toxins to man, mercury, right? It's the most deadliest thing. When dentists are removing mercury amalgams, it's like you're walking into the biohazard. I mean, everyone's gloved up. They've got ventilations. They got masks. They got suits. So, and that's living in your tooth. There's so much of that stuff out there. And we can tie all the harms of mercury. That's still in vaccines. I mean, the list of countless things. The other question that I would say the RFK is doing is like, listen, when you and I were kids, Eric, there was anywhere from like 8 to 18, vaccines that were there. And now there's over 100 vaccines. So I would say, what pandemic, like what crazy thing, like what popped up that required all of these different vaccines? Right? Because we can definitely look at, when we look at nature, we see curves. Like we can look at smallpox. We can look at different things. We can say, oh, yep, these things spike, these things change. We look at vaccines, man, it is a straight up thing of all these health side effects. We never saw peanut allergies. We never saw all these other things. And people could say, well, yeah, I mean, but we're much more educated and we catch it. Yeah, but all of these things, we're seeing the nervous system get destroyed. And that's one of the things I love about RFK is he basically is showing he's all about freedom. Like, listen, you choose what you want to choose, but I'm gonna unveil this for you. You look at the studies, you look at the case studies, you look at the countless mothers, right? When he came to speak here in Colorado, we had countless people with their kids who literally just like, and most of my patients were there. That listen, my son was fine, my daughter was fine until that happened. Yeah. Right now there are some genetic prevalences. There's some lifestyle factors, a few other things that can make this, a very much a sad thing that can happen. But we have to be able to look. We cannot turn a blind eye, and that's what I love. Is he's allowing us to and wanting us to have open eyes. He's wanting us to be able to take a look at these things and to really look at that. And that's what I would counsel you guys to do for yourselves and for your families is educate yourself on what's really out there. What are you, I mean, if you're going to scrutinize a box of food, of pasta, right? If you're going to scrutinize that, you need to look at what you're putting inside you. You need to look at that, right? When we look at, these viruses we've never proven that vaccines for viruses, because they change, they multiply so quickly. I lost 38 patients during COVID from the vaccine. 38 that had heart issues, got put on ventilators. I lost 38 to the vaccine. I didn't lose
as in died,
dead. The youngest was 34 years old. 34. I didn't lose a single patient from COVID. Now, we had people that lost parents. If we look at the average death in the United States, and I could be reversing it. I want to say the average death in the United States is 78.6 years. It could be 76.8 years. It's one of those two. The average death. Well, what's the average death of COVID? 78.6 years. It's identical, right? So, is COVID horrible? I could get a whole bunch. I could get off topic on that too. But look at what you're putting into you. Look at if you're going to scrutinize, is this apple organic or not? You got to look at what you're putting into, and that's what I hope continually happens is that veil is removed so that we can be able to educate ourselves on what we're putting into us, especially what we're putting into our kids.
Okay. If we were to say no, just because we're on somewhat of a limited time frame here, and I think, Jake, we just need to have you on again. From a dietary standpoint, how serious is the idea of, is that apple organic or not, and how correlated is that to health?
It's the closer we can eat things that God created, the better. It's been proven. We can look at what it does to us. Anything that's been genetically modified, we can measure it. We can measure it and see we can see outcomes that come from that. Try to eat as clean as you can, right? If you don't recognize half the ingredients on the box, don't put it in you. There are countless autoimmune disorders. There are countless diseases that come because of what we eat. I always say the fork will kill you faster than almost anything else out there. So watch what you put into yourself. Now, I have a degree in nutrition. I have a bachelor's in health and wellness, right? Do I eat pure organic? No, I don't. I probably, I should eat, but I try to put as much good in me where I can. And where I don't do that, that's where I supplement. Now, they're called supplements for a reason, not substitutes. A supplement does not substitute good eating and good food, but it is critical that we put good stuff in there. So I try to put, if God created this, I'm going to try to put that into me. So I have a good mix between I very much believe in, if I'm eating meat, I love to eat meat that I've harvested, that I've taken, from either from elk or wild hogs in Texas or, things of that nature. Because for me, it's very fulfilling to say, man, we provided this. Like my son, Beckham, he shot his first elk, and the elk's going to last us 2 years. And awesome. So we eat spaghetti with it, ground sausage with it. So it's proven. So do the best you can. Now organic is significant. I mean, if you're going to go and spend $500 on food on a normal grocery trip, you're going to get about a third because of just the cost of good quality. But where you can substitute, try to do that. It's measurably different. Watch what you put into yourself. It can be measured in the short and the long term. So yeah, watch what you put in yourself. Try to be as clean as you can.
Okay. All right. I think there's, my guess is there's going to be people listening right now who want to hear more, want to dig in deeper on this. So if you would let me pressure you into it, let's get you back on for another episode here.
Love to. Absolutely love to.
Long. And yeah, this has been great. So Dr. Jake Hansen, thank you so much. If you didn't recall, or the last episode, we asked you that if you got anything out of, or if you found yourself in a better posture because of listening to him, and I want to remind you to go back to that better posture again here now, but to go onto his website and to give him some social media algorithm type likes there and move them along, or even better, or on top of that, listen to the Abundant Mind podcast and to what Dr. Jake is sharing there as well. So please go engage with him, and you will continue to get more of what you've encountered here. So listeners, thank you. Dr. Jake, thank you. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you again for listening to Wealth Well Done. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player, and together we'll continue to improve our relationship with money and our effectiveness in stewarding it well.